Good morning, everybody. Welcome to POS Mornings. Bobby and I were just talking about how we like to have people to bully, and now we have all of you. Good morning. How's your Monday, Bobby?
Oh, it's off to a flying start. How about you, Mr. Oates?
It's
Get your oats in?
action packed. It's action packed between going to sleep with you and waking up with you after and having that because we did a show last night, an impromptu one, and then woke up this morning to do the show, and in between had a dream about you and nine men doing weird stuff. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch last night's episode because holy shit, it went. It was probably going to be a slower one. We were just having a couple of conversations here and there, and then Bobby introduced me to a game I didn't know about, but I guess our listeners do, that you do with your friends when they're sleeping. If you have trust issues, watch our episode, the POS one from last night.
If you have a weird roommate, you're really going to enjoy last night's episode of POS. And we tell you a great way to raise money and fight pediatric cancer.
Yeah, I think the second part kind of gets lost. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I think people were still, because it's you, Bobby, I think even when you were like, hey, this is real, this is a cause, everyone's like, when's he going to talk about AIDS? Like, no, the problem with you and your style, Bobby, is that it's very hard for you to pitch something serious after the 35 minutes or so of all that stuff you were talking about. And if you're, by the way, if you watch that and you want to do that stuff, make sure your roommate is your roommate and not your mom. Let's. I know people like say I live with my family, but we're like roommates. No, or your
Oh,
wife. A lot of things can end poorly in that. I guess make sure they're a heavy sleeper. But if you want to know what I'm talking about, watch that one. It's not really a morning conversation. I mean, it can be somewhere. It's not always morning everywhere. And some of you probably haven't slept, and you're just still awake from like a crack buzz or something. And good morning to you.
good morning to you. Somewhere Jeffrey David George is having a morning.
Who's
MOUR.
Jeffrey
Because
David George?
my roommate from college who just found out about the game we played.
I just thought that was gonna be some serial killer guy. After the three names, you're like, nope, that's a real guy who you did awful things to while he slept for points.
I didn't do awful things to him. I did awful things to me for points while he slept.
They weren't awful to you. You enjoyed it. But also, if you did watch last night's show, you do know there's a game you're playing this morning. So if you know the rules from that, you know what to do in the comments, and we'll see you have that there. So what's going on, Bobby? What tickled your fancy this weekend? Any stories?
You know what, Pat? One story in particular really tickled my fancy because there are two things I love in this world. Do you know what they are?
Yourself and not others.
Okay, well now you're sounding like certain people in my life who were sending texts last night, but that's okay. No, the answer I was looking for was drugs and Charlie.
Charlie?
Yeah, Vietnam.
Oh, you know what? Because I'm not a history buff, I always go in the chocolate factory, which is probably explains a lot about me.
Well, these Charlies had a problem, but it wasn't chocolate, Pat. And my
But it
story
was
is
a white overlord.
yes, it certainly was. My story is this: escape of drug users from overcrowded rehab center in Vietnam. Vietnam authorities are searching for nearly 100 drug users who fled from a state-owned rehab center in Mekong Delta. The center was overcrowded, with poor infrastructure, and faced criticism for its harsh treatment methods. Despite efforts to introduce community-based alternatives, such centers remain widely used. This incident reflects ongoing challenges in Vietnam's approach to drug rehab. So basically what happened is overnight 100 Viet Cong escaped from a rehab center because in Vietnam what they do is if you're on drugs, they lock you up against your will for 2 years at a time in a community with a bunch of other people addicted to whatever drug you are and go, these guys won't work together to go get that drug they need. It happens all across the country. They do cold turkey treatment. They don't have like Suboxone or anything, and the numbers are staggering. 100 people broke out, or 192 broke out over the weekend. They've only caught 90, but this is like the fifth break of over 100 people in different centers throughout the country. So who's the problem here, Pat? Who's the POS in this story? Is it the Vietnam rehab centers for being run like Shawshank Prison? Is it the drug users for breaking out of Shawshank? Is it the United States for going in, screwing up Vietnam, getting all their people addicted to drugs and leaving? We've seen the CIA do this before. They have a pattern of behavior of getting a certain group addicted to drugs and using it against them. Or is it the drug dealers themselves? We'll throw it to you since you're the only guest first here, Pat. Who's the POS in this story?
Well, it's not anyone you name because everyone you named is doing what they do. You know what I mean? They just being them. You know what I mean? The CIA is being the CIA. The Viet Cong are being the Viet Cong. Druggies are being druggies. You got to live your life. You got to do you, baby girl. You know what I mean? So it's none of them.
CIA, are you introducing drugs into another poor community to get it addicted
Yeah.
that you could profit off of? Come on, CIA.
It'd be wild for us in this day. As I grow in life, I realize stop expecting the unexpected. Stop expecting people to be something they're not. You learn who they are. And everyone in that story, Viet Cong, everybody, all are being who they're supposed to be. You know? So the POS in this story, Bobby, is you. And not because of bringing up the story, not because of anything you said or anything you're going to say afterwards about this stuff. It's because recently, if people haven't noticed on either TikTok or on YouTube in the shorts or things of that nature, Bobby is introduced using AI to create little shorts of our show. And right away, I know that Bobby is going to have something created because AI likes to fuck with us. Something that says, two wacky white men enjoy Viet Cong and drugs with a guy named Charlie. That's going to pop up. It's going to be my face like this, yours above me with your face covered by a logo, and then weird comments about Charlie's and treading on me and shit like that. And it's not going to make any sense. And at the very bottom, it's going to say, watch POS mornings. It's fun. It's like, so yeah, this is going to be one of those
With
Good
some
Morning
weird emojis.
Vietnam 2s, but Robin Williams isn't here.
Good morning, Vietnam. I'm filling in for your normal morning co-host, Robin Williams. Apparently, he got a little sad. Was jerking off, and things went south.
Well, no. Listen, if you were going to do it in a morning store style, it'd be like, hey, everybody, it's Pat and Bobby filling in for Robin Williams. He can't hang out today.
Couldn't hang with the drugs at the Vietnam Rehab Center, so he hung himself. Anyway, here's
So,
Stu with the weather.
Right. But before we go to that, he did want us to tell you guys, hello. Like, whoa, Mrs. Doubtfire Deep Cut? Are we going to Robin Williams canon in this? Here we are. Nanu, back to you.
Whoa.
Old school, deep cut.
Yeah.
Who's the piece of shit, Bobby?
So for me, the piece of shit also is nobody I named. It's not ChatGPT. It's not the AI I use. The pieces of shit for me are people in Florida right now who also has a revolving door rehab facility situation where all these people are forced to go to rehabs. Can you imagine if the Civil War started with the Florida rehab drug revolt? Like if all the drug users and all the Florida men decided to go full on Spartacus right now, they could take over this goddamn country. If you got a bunch of meth heads from Florida with an unlimited supply of meth, you're telling me they wouldn't fucking dominate?
All right,
My man's
5
up
points.
10-0.
He's in the game. That's a 10.
Oh no, he shit in his roommate's pillow. My man's not even. He's playing for 3-pointers.
If you're wondering what Bobby's talking about, go watch our show from last night.
Dude, I think our new show might just have to be about this game. I don't think we have a podcast anymore.
I do believe if people are watching this Tuesday, 8 o'clock, we will continue to talk about that game and try to find a guest who might be playing around the game. I have an idea. I've reached out to Mike O'Donnell. I think he'd be good for that, but we'll see what's going on with that one. So, shit, you just said, before you hit that point, so you were just saying.
That it's the Florida drug users. If they
Yes.
Spartacus drug revolted with unlimited meth, it'd be a real problem.
My only issue with that is that's Florida. That's Florida men after the Civil War. Pre-Civil War, Florida and Florida men were good, outstanding men for some reason, except for the swamp people. So they really weren't that. Like, do you realize how it wasn't that long ago that Florida was desirable? Like, I was watching. You ever watch old game shows, like on the Game Show networks and stuff like that? They had Classic Concentration on, and Alex Trebek was hosting that, and I forgot he hosted that.
Here we are at Classic Concentration Camp, the place where you study to get better at classic concentration. Just send us your children, not your Christian children. Oh, memories?
Really?
Oh, trust me, there are going to be lots of memories made here. In fact, you might say we make your kids into memories.
I think the only memory you should be matching is how to get out.
Yeah, talk about
that
some
was the
people
door, and that was the door. Like, why couldn't they figure that one out? I would like it if it was the other way. The just kill time. The soldiers and COs and everything are staring at all the Vietnamese, and they all look the same. It's like, bet you can't match up the brothers. Like number 12, number 33. Nah, they just kill them. Number 14, number 85.
I thought you were saying they were going to play with the parts of the camp. Oh, we got the gas showers. Oh, and that's a furnace. I'm sorry, you lose this round.
We got a train. Right, a train. All right. Build the railroad or be on the train. Which one is it? But no, but like in that show, guys, one of the trips they could win was a vacation for 2 in Tampa. I was like, what? That sounds awful now, but I guess it wasn't bad then. But I'm not gonna go hang out with Hulk Hogan and Bubba the Love Sponge.
Yeah, no. Even no matter how much Bubba and I like saying certain words.
You guys do love those words. All right, let's bring in our guest. Our guest is a comedian, B. Lee, jumping in right now. Good morning, sir. How are you?
What's up, B?
Hello. How goes it?
It goes. Were you listening at all to our story before? Do you have any thoughts on Vietnam fun stuff in the morning?
I made the mistake of trying to do research of your show previous to this. There was a lot of stuff about this gentleman and 9 other gentlemen.
So you're familiar with the game?
Yeah, vaguely. More than I wanted to be, less than I probably should be.
It's okay. That's why you're on the mornings. The game is for the evenings. I found out.
Yeah,
I'm also not
co-hosts.
psyched about the game, just so everyone knows I hate the game.
I
Neither
did
was
switch
Jeffrey.
over to the morning one thinking it was going to be a little less exciting. Found not by much.
No, it picks up. But,
Yeah.
But thanks for joining us, dude.
Thanks for having me.
Did either one of you happen to see any highlights or watch Shane Gillis on Saturday Night Live on Saturday?
I did watch the monologue. I didn't get to
Cool.
watch any of the skits, but I did see the monologue, yeah.
That works perfectly. Bobby?
So Shane's from Mechanicsburg. We're big Gillis supporters. I called my dad and was like, hey, I know you watch all the time. Make sure you got it on. He was like, I know you're driving back from a gig. Do you want me to hold the phone next to the TV? And I was like,
Nice.
no. Thankfully, I have Hulu, so I can definitely break the law and watch TV while I'm driving. And I got to see it.
You're like, no, Dad, we're trash, but I'm not going to be this trash. I will just watch it on YouTube like everybody
Yeah.
else.
No, I'm going out swinging, Dad. I want to die and them to be like, Shane Gillis was so funny, he killed this man.
I feel like
Go
I feel
ahead.
like your dad would have been more upset you got into a car accident from watching TV while driving than got a DUI like a good old fashioned man.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be like, come on, dude, man up.
But the guilt your dad would have, he's holding the phone to the TV and you die. So he's laughing at something Shane says about like being gay because you love your mom. And then you drive your car into a ditch and die. And your mom hears that. It's like all she can think about now is parenting and you being death and your dad killing you for Shane Gillis. And then watch him just host it again 6 months later. Like, oh, it didn't even matter.
I think you had loving parents, Pat. Mine would be like, yes, 2 birds, 1 stone. We get to watch Shane Gillis and hang up this phone.
I think the ultimate points would have been if you took out an Asian family while you did it. That Shane Gillis reference for all
This
of you.
wouldn't
No,
have
no,
been-
no, no,
this
we-
wouldn't have been
we
a
got
problem
it,
if
and
you'd
I
been
liked
in
it.
your part of town.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
was
know if
going to
everybody
say.
in the audience got that one.
Oh no, they did. Don't worry, our audience knows that. But like, what you don't realize is that Bobby is being in whatever is Mechanicsville. To find an Asian family, you'd have to hit the one laundromat. I don't know where else you would find anyone. There aren't many
import 'em.
Asians out there.
They import them every morning. I used to work next to the Asian buffet, and they would just line up with vans, and like 60 dudes would roll out of each one of these vans. I don't know where they're coming from, but they may be Chinatown, New York. That's not a far drive.
There you go.
I don't think you call it imported. They're going
Yeah.
to work. They're
That's
not a
definitely
product.
exporting for sure. That's exporting if they're coming from New York.
That's a
No,
good
I
point.
meant they're just traveling to work. They're not products. They're not your number one surplus.
See, that tells you about Pat. He says they are not even worth using. They're not even products.
Listen, shoddy product. If you bought a house and you're like, who built this? And they're like Chinese. You're like, all right, if the computers are built by them, fine. But I don't want the walls done by them. You know what I mean? Like,
Whoa,
not
whoa,
at
whoa.
all.
The railroad I took here, sure, but this house, no.
Yeah, not even close. Because if they have that one wall, that's all they've got. I know it's great and everything, but who gives a fuck? It's not stop. No, it doesn't stop anyone. Everyone just poses next to it.
And they're not good at corners. They can do straight lines. They're bad at that where the seams attach.
Well, they're not even good at saying corners. It's like, oh, come on.
I mean, some of the railroads make corners.
That's true. We had to teach them that with the Irish, though.
Hey,
So getting back into the Irish, Shane Gillis, for everyone who doesn't know, hosted Saturday Night Live. People in the comedy world, people are very excited. For people who don't know, Shane Gillis, years ago, before COVID, was hired to be on Saturday Night Live. It was canceled and fired even before he got to be on. And it really started his career off in an incredible way. It was because he had made some jokes about, Asian jokes and things like that, gay jokes, on his podcast years before that when they vetted him. This is when Saturday Night Live really started becoming woke and really becoming worried about things that were said, which is odd because someone like me, born in 1974 and watching Saturday Night Live most of my life, that was a show that pushed boundaries and edges. I mean, Belushi was playing an Asian person almost every episode back in the day. There was so many crazy black jokes and things like that nature. People calling someone else an ignorant slut was their main catchphrase for a while. There was so much there, so it was odd when this happened. But Shane, making the ultimate comeback, was asked by Saturday Night Live to host the show, and people got excited, along with 21 Savage, which, by the way, is the greatest combination of two human beings I've ever seen. If you're going to take two people I would want to watch in a car ride, it's Shane Gillis and 21 Savage. We're hanging out together is a good time. But with the show, it came out, and yes, I watched it, and it was Saturday Night Live. It wasn't the greatest thing ever. Saturday Night Live hasn't been the greatest thing ever. Their politics aren't really jokes about politics anymore. It's skewing one side. But they involve Shane in a lot of things. Basically, this was just a way for Shane to wear several different wigs in one night, I think. But that's what all the sketches, if you watch it, Shane just wore a lot of wigs. Shane wore so many wigs, it was fucking crazy. And Shane was Shane. I think the problem with this is that, and I'm going to be in the minority here, I wasn't happy when I heard that Shane Gillis was going to host Saturday Night Live. And not because I don't root for Shane. I've opened for Shane before. Shane is a hilarious guy. I root for comedy. I'm happy to see those things happen. The comeback is great for all that. Fuck Saturday Night Live, all that stuff. It's because it's proving once again that Saturday Night Live, it should just not be on the air anymore. Because Saturday Night Live, years ago, was a show that if you had a movie coming out, you were excited to go on Saturday Night Live to let the world know your movie was coming out. When you were a band, you wanted the world to know you had an album coming out, so you went there. This was obviously a ploy to get two very popular and polarizing people to get eyes on your show. Saturday Night Live is now using the guests to get views instead of the other way around the way it used to be, where the people were going on there and the trade was, yeah, I'll play your game. I'll act. I'll be in sketches. It's fun. It was fun to watch guys who were regular actors, like back in the day when they had like Mark Hamill on, and you're like, it's so weird to see Luke Skywalker trying to do sketch, or Joe Montana, or weird things. Shane Gillis has a better sketch show right now than Saturday Night Live. When you want to watch him do sketch, you can literally watch him do sketch. So it's like it's not even like different or funny or put him in an odd spot. I think the only thing was, can Shane do things that are like clean and kind of weird and still make it funny while being forced to work with writers who are not as good as the writers that he has now? So who's the piece of shit in the story? Is it Saturday Night Live for using guests now to get eyes? If you have to do that at this point, if you have to put guests on to make your show good, that's what happens in podcasting all the time. A lot of podcasts will have just guests on for the sake of guests and put them in the show, but some of them are like putting famous people on or polarizing people on to get the views. But when they don't have that kind of person on, their views drop like crazy.
We got him on. That's why we got B on. Because we needed a
He
star.
doesn't know.
Yeah, don't
He's
say
our,
that.
I did that because everyone thinks it's Brandon Lee, the guy who died in The Crow. They're like, oh no, the guy.
I use
became a
that for
comedian.
booking. I get all Asian gigs now. Turns out they don't check your family tree, so it works out.
Well, you did get those gigs till that Mechanicsburg joke where you killed that family in body scenario. That's all over for you now.
I mean,
But
I can't because I'm Asian.
Yeah, oh, and thank you for your service. So Bobby, so is it Saturday Night Live for using people in that way now and not being that forced? Is it Shane Gillis for going back on? I mean, yes, it was fair. It was funny to watch. The monologue was okay. Basically, all we really got to see was new jokes that Shane's working on from the next special, they were great. It really wasn't the audience it should be in, but it wasn't like when Dave Chappelle hosted when Trump, the first time with him and Tribe Called Quest were that great group together, right when Trump was in the elections and things, you wanted to hear Dave's take on it. Sometimes with monologues, you want to hear what they have to say. When Norm Macdonald made his comeback from being fired, his monologue was great because he made a joke saying, "Oh, I found out that I'm not funnier now. That's not why I'm back. I found out the show sucks now." And it was his shot at Saturday Night Live. I'm not saying Shane had to take a shot, but it was just a regular monologue, and all the sketches were just regular sketches, and there was nothing crazy or wild. If anything, it was more boring than normal Shane stuff. There was one or two little things. I mean, the heck, even at the openings skit was 4 politicians talking about Trump, and I'm sitting there watching it going, "Oh, this is gonna be cool. Shane's gonna walk in as Trump, do his Trump thing. That's a great way to start the show. Show he does the thing people know him for the most." And Shane wasn't in this sketch. Yeah, later on he did a Trump impression. But it was like you didn't even utilize the guy right there. You would have gone, "Oh shit, this is gonna be a little different," and it wasn't. It was just 4 guys kind of making fun of Trump in a passive aggressive way, live from New York and Saturday Night Live, and that was it. So is it that? Is it all the comedians who got upset and all the Shane Gillis fans on the internet saying, "Fuck this, Shane should have gone fucking postal and scorched earth"? Well, you don't do that. It's still professionalism. It's still a job. Shane still has to fill out arenas. Shane's trying to get Shane went on to get people that watch Saturday Night Live to become his fans. Not so he went to utilize it as well. Or is it 21 Savage? What are you doing? 2 of the slowest songs possible. Throw some energy in this bitch. You're the breaks in between the news. I need a little more than you bringing out some hoe who's wearing Cinnabons on her tits and playing a violin. It was fine for a minute, but it was boring as shit. Who's the piece of shit in the story? Bobby, you go first.
Well, I understand what you're saying about Shane doing his own thing, but I do think there's something very rewarding about when a place lets you go for, a joke or something and coming back and being like, "See, I could still do this. I'm not a bad human being. You guys screwed up." I like the fact that he didn't go super Gillis. Like, he kind of kept it SNL level of humor. Like, he didn't go super edgy, but he pushed the line a number of times. Even in his monologue at one point, he was like, "Am I allowed to say that on TV?" So I enjoyed it. And what I thought was
okay,
cool
but did he
is-
really push it? Because that even felt like he was saying that where the punchline was, "Oh, can I say that?" Because if you want to talk about pushing, Louis C.K. when he came on and he was just supposed to be doing, and Louis did a pedophiles are why they
Absolutely.
like to fuck kids. That was pushing a line. That was someone going nuts. That wasn't really push. Shane was like kind of like doing newer versions of the same shit he does. I'm not shitting on it, but it felt so scripted. It wasn't pushing a line. He felt like he was really under company line, and I'm not saying he has to do that. But if you're going to be under company line anyway, then work for the fucking company. Once you come back, kind of piss on him a little bit.
That's fair. I guess the way I was looking at it is like my dad did not like Louis C.K.'s monologue. He didn't like Bill Burr. He didn't like Chappelle's. He enjoyed Shane's the whole way through. Like
Yeah,
Shane
but that's your
showed he
hometown
could do
boy.
it. No, not even that. My dad hates edgy comedy. Like, he does not like 90% of the things I say. Just even normal conversation, let alone on stage. But the way he was able to do that, make it like America, everybody could enjoy it, and he's already got Gillian Keeves out there, which is his edgy stuff. I think he played that perfectly. I think it's hard to shit on SNL when Lorne Michaels had Shane's back. Like, every interview Shane's done, he's been like, Lorne was always like, I think we can get you through this. Let's get you to air. And then when he was gone, anything I can do for you. So I don't think Shane wanted to come on and be like, fuck SNL, because Lorne had his back. I think it was Lorne's way of showing NBC they were wrong. So for me, the piece of shit is anybody who jumped on and was like, he bombed before the monologue was even done. Like, if you go through and timestamp some of the tweets, people were just tweeting before anything happened. And it was anybody who didn't give it a fair shake. Like, if you went in, it's the same idea as if you went into Nanette going, "This is terrible, this is anti-comedy," and never gave it a chance. Sure, there were parts you hated, but you might have enjoyed parts of it too if you had an open mind. So it's me, people turning comedy into war.
No one's gonna join the net. B, who's the piece of shit?
I think SNL. I mean, my feelings on it. I think his monologue wasn't that great. I don't think he bombed, but I don't think it was anywhere close to his best stuff. And I think you're right. It was, SNL standard, but current SNL standard, not the SNL we all liked. And that's the problem. I think he could have went, and not necessarily scorched earth. He didn't have to go after SNL, but he could have went with some funnier stuff. And I think us as comedians, like, people at home wouldn't have caught it as much, but I was definitely catching like stuff you would do if you like were losing a crowd. and he was doing that for like TV, and it didn't make sense. Like he was doing a lot of, oh, I thought that would have done better. Like it's just stuff we've all done. Like, you know, oh, all right, you know, this guy, you know, and then he started doing work to his parents. And so it felt more like he was doing a room that he was trying out stuff in than it did the monologue of the show you got fired from that just had to bring you back. I think a lot of us were like waiting for like his, you know, Chappelle moment. Not that he's, you know, as profound, you know, with his writing, but I think he could have came with, you know, something a lot better. At least as far as the monologue, like I said, I didn't get to catch the skits, but yeah, I just felt like it wasn't necessarily lazy, but it felt like maybe he was nervous. I don't know if it just didn't seem like his best stuff. But that being said, SNL is the piece of shit for having to bring him back in the first place because they suck so bad that they were like, hey, Bud Light's giving you a deal and they like us, so why don't you come open our show?
Right. Like a lot of that. That's the thing too. Like the monologue. That's the reason I'm picking on that is because that's the only thing where somebody could be like on their own. Not that you said not to go score shirts, but taking a different approach. The sketches are the sketches. You have to play along. You're not going to be able to. When people are like, he should have done this or that, you can't write your own sketches. You're going into a sketch show and doing their thing. You know what I mean? So you can't really do anything with that stuff. The sketches were fine. They did have Shane play the white guy who says wild things in this. When you watch them, there's some decent ones. There's an HR one that wasn't bad. Like most SNL sketches, they go about 2 minutes too long. One of the first sketches was a white family trying to go to church in Jamaica on vacation, and they went to a Jamaican church, and so the back and forth, and Shane doing a Jamaican Rasta voice. They were pushing as much as they kind of could. In the monologue, I don't know why, I just kind of wanted. Shane is very clever and very good at making points, especially when it has to do with history and things of that nature. I kind of thought this was going to be Shane coming out and saying to everybody, hey, this is great. I was asked to come back after I was exiled. You know what else that happened in history? And then, like, knowing his history, funny things that would. What if George Washington went on a tour of Britain afterwards, or like him kind of like did his thing with the George Washington being a big retard or whatever? There were so many things he could have done to let people know how big this moment was for Shane and for SNL. But
Yeah, I thought it was
kind
going to be. I thought it was going to be like Family Guy when they came back to Fox and they went through every failed show that Fox had after they got rid of them and brought him back. I thought it was going to be something more like that. Like, hey, guys, thanks for bringing me back, you know, and just went through all the comedians that had failed careers that they had on the show, you know.
Given his level of cleverness, though, could it be him making a point by just doing like treating it like an open mic and kind of just working new material on his SNL monologue and just being like, see, I don't even care about this. Now, I may be reading too much into that. I'm just a Shane
it wasn't
stan.
open mic because most of the comments I saw.
Most of it was in the material. Yeah.
Where people like, hey, when you see him on tour right now, these are the bits. You know what I mean? So it's not even open mic. He's legitimately doing the bits. He even used the old lead in into New Down Syndrome stuff. Yes, the topics were a little bit, you know, rougher than Saturday Night Live goes after. I think the biggest problem, and something I should have suggested in the choices, but I thought about it while we were talking, the piece of shits are more than likely, because the biggest backlash was the cast. Because the cast is the Asian guy who hated it, that what happened right now, the gay Asian guy, a lot of woke people on that show. Their mindset is fucking not any good. At the very end, when you watch the end of Saturday Night Live, a lot of times, no matter what, when a guest is on there, what happens? The band and the guest and the host shake hands, and then everybody comes around and hugs. No one did that. They all stood in the back away. They kind of stared. Kurt Metzger put up a great video on his Instagram. If you check that out, he closes in on the band member during the monologue, a woman just pouting in the back the whole time, every time Shane spoke, just showing her being, I'm so upset. Like, only the Asian guy and Shane hug, but you can tell that was like probably coordinated. Like, let's do this hug at the end, because they both didn't seem happy with the hug, whatever. So it's like, I don't think they embraced it, and I think therefore the sketches could lack. So that's why another thing, if you're going through that week of like knowing that you're dealing with people like, hey, don't do this, don't say that, don't be this guy. Oh, you're that guy who's conservative or crude or whatever dumb things people say about him. He should have just come out with a monologue, kind of like doing that thing. He's a huge Norm Macdonald fan. He should have used the Norm example. There's a lot of things there he could have done to make the audience relate and see what's going through, because not everyone knows the story. Our worlds know it because we're comedians, but it's not like everyone's grandma knows who Shane Gillis is or watches Saturday Night Live. It's not as big as we think it is, because some people don't even know Saturday Night Live's still on the air. You know what I mean? And they definitely don't know what a Gillian Keeves is.
That's a fair point.
Taking shots now.
Well, it's true. It really is. Like I hadn't watched it for a while. I knew it was on, but think about it. I don't know how your guys' ages, but like in life, you can kind of always look back at certain parts of like the decades and go, oh, if you want to relate to Saturday Night Live, oh, those were the Billy Crystal years. Those were the Adam Sandler, Chris Farley years. Those were the Eddie Murphy years. You could do that even going up Will Ferrell and going farther and farther. There were still people that you could do it with, to Bill Hader and stuff like that. There isn't that person now. I think most people go, is Pete Davidson still on? Or they go, oh, I like the black guy and white guy who do the news and make each other uncomfortable. That's all they kind of know.
I think they know what Keenan. That's
When you tell them. But I also thought that because I said to someone recently, I'm like, oh, it's a cool thing is that Keenan's been on forever. Like, who's that? I'm like, Good Burger. They're like, what's Good Burger? I'm like, oh, you're in that age. Well, I had kids that watch that, so that's why I know it. But if you were that age, fine. But there's that in between age where it's like, if you didn't have kids, you weren't watching Good Burger. You know what I mean? It's like, so you didn't know what that was. Right, and so then you're like watching. Then you're like, who is that? Oh, he's their black guy now. And then that sounds even worse. Not that they have more, but he really is. He's their long term. But besides what, Tim Meadows, or he might be now the longest running cast member. He probably is at this point. But even then, he's not really doing much. He's just kind of on it. All the sketches they did fit into Shane's wheelhouse to a point, but they also felt like things Shane would reject from Gillian Keeves.
So
Tim
I
Meadows
think
on SNL.
Tim Meadows.
Yeah.
Forever.
No, like I'm legitimately surprised that he's still on.
Well, no, he's not now. No. I was just saying he might have been the longest running guy before.
Oh, okay. I was like, did they bring him back or something?
He might just still be in the back chilling.
That's why I was like, have I been missing? Like, but anyway.
You guys need Love Doctor or whatever the fuck he was.
Yeah, a smiley face on his head.
Yes.
On his, can we say? I've been probably swearing this whole time. Didn't realize.
Oh yeah, you could swear.
Oh, you can swear all day. We started this with Bobby
slurs.
talking about jerking off on people.
That's what I remember. Well, I led into that very strategically.
Hey, there
Good morning,
we go.
Kish. And 5 points for you too, Jim? God damn it. All right.
I think you said rejected sketches, but I think one of the sketches made the best point, which was, I'm not going to spoil anything, but he did a Trump thing with shoes, and it was mocking Trump, but it was done in a fun way, and then it went into the Weekend Update, and the first 5 jokes they tried were Trump jokes, and they all bombed. Like, the audience gave them nothing, and it was just, I think, the stark comparison, oh, you can do this without just overtly attacking. And I think that really illustrated the point of, look what I do versus look what you do. It really felt like old SNL, where they weren't trying to make a point. Pat, help me, because you actually watched it.
Well, no. They didn't. Everything was... The beginning sketch was old SNL. The problem is they didn't go the route they should have gone, like I said, and added Shane to it because it would have been like, oh shit. What they did, they were talking about the South Carolina caucus, whatever, and talking about all the people on the Republican side who have to kiss Trump's ass now because he is their guy. They don't want him to be their guy. So they're doing it was kind of like joking about a friend of yours that bullies everyone. You know what I mean? Where you're like, the three of us get together and go, because he's their boss too. It's like, Tim's a great guy. Yeah, remember last week when he pantsed me and called me gay? That was so fun, wasn't it? That was the whole thing where they were doing all the jokes they did. For Shane to come out now and then do it you're gay, you're black, you're dumb. Even if he did that for 2 seconds and then turned to the cameras and live from New York, it would have been awesome. You would have gone, oh shit, I'm ready for this episode. But they never they just did, once again, if you're aware that Trump's back, let's complain about him because that's our political angle. Live from New York and Saturday Night Live. And then you have Shane coming out, nervous, kind of mitching around, dressed like he's dressed if he's doing his laundry and his good clothes aren't there. I'm not shitting on Shane's outfit, but he didn't even make it look important. I know he's being Shane, but even Louis would put on a better black t-shirt. You kind of do a little bit more when you come out. He kind of came out fuck this. And then right away he's like, my mom and dad are here. It's people must have been is this Make-A-Wish? Did this kid, if you don't know who he is, you thought some kid won something and he got to be on there and talk, my dad, there he is. He coaches girls basketball. I know he wanted that joke to work, and I'm not saying you cater to your audience, but you're doing a show where everyone's woke right now. So like they're like, of course he coaches girls basketball. Girls basketball is better than boys basketball because they're all morons. You know what I mean? So you're not even like, if you're gonna do it, lean into it more. If you're going to touch the subjects, go after it. And in the sketches, same thing. It was like Shane's doing a fake DraftKings thing where the sketches you can gamble on your friends' gambling addictions. You know when it was rock bottom kings, and it was like so it was like whatever something with it. Once again, a funny sketch. But when I'm watching, I'm going, oh, if this was normally Shane, they would go darker. They'd bet on how your friend was going to kill himself when he couldn't pay for stuff. They didn't go that far. They went close about what he's going to bet on to lose money and if he's going to lose his job or something, but didn't go that extra edge that Saturday Night Live itself would have gone back in the day. And you can't say they wouldn't have. One of the most famous commercials they ever had was that Schlitz Gay, where it's just fucking Adam Sandler and Chris Farley in a pool and a bunch of gay men come out and they're like, ooh, and they're just drinking beer because they're like, oh, if you like beer and you're gay, like that was the whole joke. Like they've done it before. You can laugh at satire, true. But this was all controlled.
Well, I was going to make the point earlier that when Bobby was bringing up about the the president's sketches and everything, I think SNL back in the day was good at not picking sides. They made fun of everybody equally, and then at some point where we all stopped watching, they like only picked one side and kept hammering it in, and that's when it was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. This isn't even funny anymore, and it's clear as day what you're doing. So like, I don't care who you're making fun of, just make it funny. That used to be the goal.
And the sketch I was talking about in particular, Pat, was the Trump shoes, and I said like he did that, and it was it was poking fun at Trump. It wasn't a pro-Trump thing. You know the sketch I'm talking about where it was like the shoes from like.
Did you watch the whole sketch?
Yeah.
Okay, to me that sketch was not about that. That sketch was all about we're going to tell you, Shane, that we got the better Trump guy because they let that other guy come out and do his Trump and kind of made him sound like he had a little better Trump impression because it was that whole thing. And then boom, why is there a second Trump? I get what you're kind of doing. But just let Shane be Shane with that. Because Shane wasn't even doing the lines, the insults he would do with it. Shane's Trump is making fun of Trump. It's not pro-Trump in any way. That's him walking around like an autistic person. Yeah.
What you just said is the point I've been trying to make, though, is he makes fun of Trump in that sketch, regardless of bringing the other guy out. Like, the way he made fun of Trump is how they used to mock politics. Like, it wasn't from a side. It was just, look at how stupid this situation was. Biden came out and was like, oh, look. And then he fell over. Like, it was kind of equal weighted. And I think the way he did that, and then they went right into Weekend Update, where the first 4 jokes they had were all about Trump bashing, and it didn't go well. I think it showed, like, Shane was like, look, I can be funny without picking a side. We can mock everything. It felt like maybe not old SNL, but maybe like the old Daily Show even, where there wasn't a side, it wasn't an angle, it was just everybody involved in this is dumb, and you're dumb if you care, is how I felt.
Oh, I didn't take it that way. Okay, but only because watching it, I don't think the jokes really didn't land. I think that's just Saturday Night Live now. The audience there isn't a good audience. What Saturday Night Live's always done is tried to be the voice of the young people. That's what their thing was since the 70s. They tried to be the political things like that. It's what the young people are thinking, not the old people. You're going against it. So in a way, by being woke, whatever, they are going the voice of the young people that are being vocal on social media in a way. But those people aren't funny or have a sense of humor. Back in the day, at least, they were like funny. They just want to take the sketches later, share them, and then hashtag, mean white man, whatever. So it's not even like they don't know how to be funny on either side. To me, that was a clunky sketch. You could have done a lot more with it, but it wasn't really about him playing basketball. They didn't even know where to go with it. They were so afraid to go places with it. They didn't really do anything. You know what I mean? And then the Biden part just felt so forced, almost like, well, we better involve Biden too, or we're just bashing Trump. So we'll just shove this 2-second he falls down thing. Because you could have done so much more with that. You know what I mean? You could have done a whole second Biden shoe. My whole sketch would have been the Biden shoes, countering it, showing Trump quickly selling it, and then Biden leaning in and doing things like riding the bike in those shoes and not crashing or something like. It was just like, we heard a story, it's a thing, we better talk about it, let's force it. Every sketch felt like that.
Do you think SNL is worse now because it has worse writers or worse comedians?
Neither. It's not the actors, and it's not the writing. I think they do hire. I know some people that from New York that do get hired. I think they write good people, but I think it's more of a controlled thing. I don't know who here's a wrestling fan. I hate when I go into this, but wrestling was at its best when the writers were allowed to just throw things in there, and Vince kind of trusted it. When you watch that stuff, it's like, that's the Attitude Era and all the craziness. But once that got big and all the sponsors came, it became now a filter. You could write what you wanted, but someone said, okay, this is fine, but we're only allowing this to, so your voice wasn't really heard. I don't think the writers are really heard now, and I think there are other people testing it against, not only like, oh, this joke is great, they're like, oh, could this get canceled? Can this bother us? Can this hurt us? All right, so we got to filter it, change it. I think there's just too many steps now to the funny getting out there. Because those guys in sketches, they're not bad. They are funny comic. They are pulling it off. They do a great job of trying to memorize that many sketches and be funny and do the character and all that. It's a very hard thing to do week to week, coming up with new shit. So I think they do fine with that. I don't think a comedian really should be hosting those shows. I really think it should be people that shouldn't be used to being live. That's my opinion, because that's the great thing about Saturday Night Live, watching someone struggle. Like someone being on there. Like I said, when athletes do it, when politicians, when Trump did it, it was great because you're like, what the fuck is this? I love Shane. I love when Nate Bargatze got a chance to do it. I love when Eddie Murphy would come back and do it and all that stuff. But they're used to being live. It's not hard for them. They can do that in the moment. And yeah, it's cool to watch it, but I don't want to watch them flourish. I want to watch them struggle. I like when they crack up. Like there was one sketch near the end where Shane, you can tell, was kind of like checked out at this point. But he kind of he started to, Fugliana, that thing, he started to like laugh because the girl was like, fuck it, started putting her head on him and trying to crack him up or whatever. So there was a little moments. For the most part, it wasn't that. It was just Shane trying to read.
Yeah, see, this is probably the problem with SNL, because we have two different inherent wants from SNL. Like, I hate when they lose character. It's like, you're getting paid to do your thing, like get your shit together. And so like we have two different bases there.
Oh no, I would rather it that way. But knowing that it was Shane and he didn't want to be there, I kind of like the crack. Sometimes if the sketch is awful, I need the crack. I would rather it be a great sketch. You're right. When they were at their best, Phil Hartman, stuff like that, I didn't want any cracking up. I wanted me to forget who they were.
Those are the best episodes. So, like, I love when there's a comic. I also love when they have some idiot that doesn't know what they're doing in between. And I think that's what the old show did great, is they had some really good episodes. And then if they peppered in some, goof from, like you said, football, you could go, oh, okay, all right. Now I'll tune in next week for the good episode. This was fun, And I think now it's all just like those goof episodes where it's not funny. It's a guy that doesn't know what they're doing. It's a bunch of people that, could be doing improv in Pennsylvania, or, out live on Saturday night. And you're like, all right, I don't need to watch this. I could, go get drunk or go to sleep. Either one's a better option.
The reason I know exactly what you're saying about that, where it feels like mature versus like preparedness versus not. But the reason I liked that he broke during Fugliana is it felt like another comedian fucking with you during your set. Like it felt like a moment of like the way she was putting her head on him and stuff was like another comedian knew doing something would get to Shane. And I thought it was like that level felt almost like the old camaraderie.
So I'm with you on that, Bobby. That's what used to happen with Farley. Farley would be so funny. Everybody else was behind a book or something but they were all trying not to crack, right? And then you get to the Jimmy Fallon era where he's like, hi, I'm a character. And it's like, why you can't keep your shit together for 3 seconds, man? This is your only fucking job. Like literally trying to
exactly.
And so, like, that's my problem. Is it got to a point where nobody cared at all. Like,
I like the natural crack, like you said. I don't like we're trying to get a viral video from the crack, and that's what it felt like. I felt like Fugliana, as much as that was funny, I thought she was trying to, like, almost doing it to go, well, let's get something out of this. Let's get me in this, because it didn't really help or hurt this. The sketch sucked, and it was much later in the show too, so I kind of get it. But it was just like overrun the same way, nonstop. But it also was just. Men are dumb. That was the whole sketch. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what you're going to do with it. They were saying certain things about the women, but nothing really bad, Yeah, it was just whatever.
I know what you're saying, and let's do your plugs quick in case we got to cut this short because we're getting close
we're gonna, Pat. And B. Lee, we're going to have you back on again. Unfortunately, I got to go run to the doctors at 9, but dude, thank you so much for being on. Where can people follow you? What do you got to plug?
At Be Lee Be Funny. I put it on the screen for everybody. That's where you can find me. I always post where I'm hosting. I host a lot of open mics. I have some gigs coming up. I don't have any memorized, but yeah, hopefully I'll be on again when I have something coming up.
You
sooner.
definitely will, dude. Thank you. You were fun as hell at this.
Yeah,
I want
you were
to
great.
get you into more
Appreciate
stuff.
it, guys. Thank you.
And you wake up early, which is nice. So thank you.
Yeah, my job knows I'm a comedian first, and I sell brake pads second. So I was like,
nice. Bobby.
Check me out. March 23rd, I'm at the Allenbury Theater. That's the next big thing I got going on. And make sure you're
Friday
liking
night,
and
Twisted
subscribing
Vine
here.
Derby. Oh, sorry, I thought you were done. My bad.
No,
Friday
I was
night,
just doing
Twisted
that
Vine
here.
Twisted Vine Derby. Tickets still available. Go on my social media, find the links there. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that stuff. Good morning to everyone. Kish, Jim, everybody that joined in this morning for the points. We know the point leaders. Tuesday, 8 o'clock, join in for more of games. Wednesday morning, we've got Matthew James come back on. B. Lee, and thank you so much for being on. Bobby, we'll leave with an inspirational quote.
This is Jesus said, answered and said unto them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up.
Like a boner. All right, good morning, everybody.